Villa's 150th year anniversary. Hold on, let's start that again. Hold on. Anniversary game.
Anniversary game.
Yeah, okay, right, cool.
That's fine.
Welcome back to Up the Villa. This is our predicted lineup for Aston Villa's 150 year anniversary. No, what's it again? Aston Villa's 150th
Anniversary game.
Anniversary game, okay.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa for Aston Villa's 150th anniversary game of football against West Ham. Right, so let's get into it. Hannah, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Glad that I've only managed to catch probably some of the worst 25 years of Aston Villa in its 150 year anniversary. Very lucky for me, but no, all good, thank you.
Well, to be fair, when I did the match preview yesterday, Justin was talking and he was like, you know, I'm approaching 50. And I thought, mate, we've only been going 100 years like before you were born. Like that's mental to think of. That's not a long time, is it really?
You can't really imagine a world where it didn't exist. And if you think about it, it's only like 3 generations sort of before this group of us that do this podcast that, you know, our football club was founded, and you sort of think, wow, because considering it's such like a integral part of British culture and all our lives revolve around sports, specifically football, you can't even imagine that it wasn't that long ago that it didn't exist. So, and look at how much it's changed in such a short space of time.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. And yeah, I love Villa and I love being a fan and I love chatting about Villa. So what we're going to do on this episode is we're going to predict the Villa lineup. Any of you that watched the match preview yesterday, we've got strict instructions from Justin to take it very, very seriously. So he will be watching and he will be assessing who we pick. So first of all, Hannah, like, where's it ranking this game in your sort of season? Like, are you along the same lines as it's really, really important, or are you a little bit more relaxed and calm about it?
I've got to say, I think I am Team Justin on this one, purely because I think for far too long we've watched us plummet out of FA Cups, League Cups. And I just think in general it's not good for morale. I understand the prioritisation of the Champions League, of the Premier League. I mean, even more so this season. Look, we're in the best competition in Europe. Last season and the seasons before, there was probably less of an excuse. But I do still think it's important. I think these games can be momentum builders. We're trying to do that at the moment. We've been struggling for consistency. We're trying to build up this home record, which at the moment is quite good, but perhaps not as many wins as we'd like. And I just think it's an opportunity for us to progress in a competition. I mean, from the club's perspective, they're going to want us to be in as many tournaments as possible. But from a managerial perspective, I think Unai Emery has clearly made it apparent that his priorities are the Europe competitions and the Premier League, because that's how we qualify. So it's an interesting balance, I think, to see how we strike it. But I think just to get past the first round or two would be good, because not only is it, like I say, a momentum builder, good for morale, I think for the fan base as well. People can keep their heads a little bit longer, not go into panic mode. We know West Ham are pants, like they are rubbish. So to lose to them, even if you think, oh, it's an FA Cup game, it still makes fans grumble. It makes the players frustrated. So take away whether we're going to win the tournament or not, which I know is Justin's lifelong dream. Let's just win the game of football first. Like, I think we should want to win every game of football we play, no matter what the competition is. So I think it'll be interesting to see the lineup. We'll obviously get into that now. But for me, I would love to see us win the FA Cup. It is my lifelong ambition to see us win something. But I do think the FA Cup, we've said before, it's the creme de la creme of English football. Absolutely at the pinnacle of what clubs look to achieve. And it's one of those competitions that anyone can win. Like, the beauty of the cup comes from the FA Cup. You get so many good stories. Obviously, the round that we're entering in, there's still going to be lots and lots of smaller teams or lower ranked teams. So you never know who we could pull in the next round if we beat West Ham, because it's always frustrating. Like, when we lose to somebody in the next round, whoever we lost to pulls like a Accrington Stanley or someone. So I think let's just focus on winning the football game. The fans want it. I want it. And I think in general, whilst we're still trying to like find off our real form for the season, we could just do with picking up wins everywhere we can.
So let's put it the lineup then. I think the first thing to say is probably you'll know how seriously we're taking it with who's in goal. I think
Yeah.
we'll get a good barometer of what's to come when we first see that team sheet and you see the first name on it, who it is. So we'll go to the tactical pad. We'll predict the lineup. I have done a little bit of a cheeky. I've gone with the same colours of the anniversary kit, you know, the new one. So it's a bit of dark blue black with a red sort of lion. So I've tried to merge it. Apparently Martinez is in a green kit, so we'll see. Well, it could be Olsen, it could be Gauchi, who knows? But Hannah, who is in goal?
You've made a really good point. Do you know, I hadn't even thought about the keeper thing, and it is such an indicator, isn't it, of like, right, what kind of level of priority is the manager giving to this game? For me, it has to be Martinez. I just think the second you put Olsen in, I'm sorry, really, I'm sure he's a lovely bloke. I'm sure he is. But the second you put him in goal, I just feel like instantly it's sending a message to the players, to the fans, to the other team that we're not taking this that seriously and we're probably going to concede even more than normal. I think Martinez has to play. But then again, I don't really know what Unai Emery's mantra is. He might feel like the club has to have like a cup keeper. Obviously, Martinez is going to play in the Champions League, but he might value a cup keeper. I don't really know, but for me, it has to be Martinez. I just think we're throwing it if we try and mess around too much with the defence.
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling. Well, apparently Gauchi's going. Maybe this window on loan, or I don't really know. I saw that there's rumours of Gauchi moving. Olsen, I think he's probably going to move at the end of the season. So it's not like we've got a number 2 that we're trying to sort of like nurture and give them opportunity. Like, I think we're probably going to have a bit of a freshen up anyway. And I think Martinez, like we say, like, it's pretty obvious that if you see Olsen in goal, no disrespect to Olsen, you know that we're not chucking it, but we're sort of saying we're playing our beekeeper. Like, that's the seriousness of how we're taking it. So personally, I think Martinez needs to play in this game. Now, there's one player at the back who definitely needs to start, and that's Maatsen. I think we saw him coming off the bench against Leicester, changing the game. We need to see more of him. I want to see him build a little bit of form and just show us what he can do. And I think he's deserving of a start. So I think Maatsen's pretty much nailed on. And I think the rest is pretty much nailed on. I mean, are we talking Mings Konsa centre-back partnering? Like, with Pau out and we're not sure where Carlos is.
Yeah.
I imagine that's going to be the back 2, isn't it?
Yeah, but obviously we haven't had an update on Carlos yet. To be honest, I don't really know what happened to him. Do you? Was it his hamstring or something?
I don't know. It's made out of cheese, isn't it? It's like
Made out of Play-Doh. I don't actually know what's wrong with him, but either way, whatever's happened to throw him in this game, he's got an error in him at the best of times. So no, I don't fancy that. I would stick with Mings and Konsa, although it's just slightly worrying the amount of minutes that Mings has been thrown into. Yeah. But you know, he's fit and he's ready, so he's got to start. And I think, yeah, we saw that him and Matson can potentially link up quite well on that side, playing out from the back. Fingers crossed we see Matson. I thought his short cameo against Leicester was very promising and more of what we thought we'd signed when we signed him. So, yeah. And Cash probably has to start. I think there isn't probably a shout for Nedeljkovic. But the fact that even when Cash has been injured, he hasn't had any minutes just makes me think that he's not where he needs to be yet to be starting games. So, yeah, I think Cash will start.
And there are rumours of Nedeljkovic going to Valencia as well. So that shows you that he, like you've just said, that, you know, if Cash has been injured and he can't get the minutes, then I imagine that it will be Cash. Now, this is the area of the pitch where I think we may disagree. We may have different opinions. So your double pivot then, what is it?
Do you know what? I'm going to go with Ross Barkley again.
Yeah, I agree.
Thought it was really good against Leicester. Really good. Some of his best, despite the fact it was a dire game. I'm not going to lie, but I thought Barkley was good, and obviously got on the score sheet. You've got to be resting some midfielders in this game, I think, purely for minutes, just because we've had a lot of change in this team this season, but the likes of Tielemans and Kamara have had so much game time. However, we've got McGinn out. I think Tielemans probably starts alongside Barkley.
Yeah.
And Kamara and Onana.
Okay.
I think Kamara's rested in this game.
Okay, so we'll go Onana sitting then and Barkley. That's what I think. I agree with that. I think we're doing pretty well here. Duran can't play because he's suspended. So this is the last of Duran's suspension. So it'll be Watkins up top.
Yeah.
We've got no McGinn. I think Bailey starts on the right. What do you think?
I think he will play purely because he's just got his goal. And I think they'll want to kind of keep that momentum. And again, we're really lacking. Is he going to play Buendia? Probably not. But it's potentially one where let's see where we are after 60 minutes. Could we give Buendia half an hour? But I do think Bailey starts.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bailey, you know, it would be great if he could get another goal. I think that would be brilliant. Confidence, just build it. And I think it would be really good to see him back firing. So I kind of feel like there's 4 players now for 2 positions. So I feel like we've got to pick, is it Rodgers off Watkins or is it Buendia off Watkins? Is it Ramsey on the left or is it Rodgers on the left or is Tielemans in behind Watkins? So that's probably the big decision.
I would say I think Ramsey's going to start. Rodgers obviously had the rest at the weekend from his suspension, but is Emery going to take this as a chance to say, you know, we'll bring you on, but for the most part, continue this rest? Because again, he's played so many minutes, hasn't he? Does Ramsey step up in this game again for a bit of rotation? And if that's the case, I think Tielemans plays. I think if Rodgers plays, maybe Buendia comes in. I don't see him changing both of them. I think it'll be one of the two. So I'm going to go with a Ramsey Tielemans rather than a Rodgers Buendia. But I'm interested to see what you think.
Yeah, I don't think Tielemans plays. I think the 2 that I would definitely want to sit out this game would be Kamara and Tielemans. Just because the amount of games that they've played, like, and what's to come. We've got Everton on Wednesday, so this game's on Friday. With Everton Wednesday, and I kind of feel like a little bit, especially with the forward line, that there's a couple of players that to be able to help us in the long run, like Ramsey. I feel like Ramsey's got to start because he needs to play minutes. He's going to get a definitive 70, 65 on that left. That will help him for the rest. So I think he starts. And then my other little one in my head is, I'm like, if Buendia's staying at Villa, he probably needs to play.
He's got to play.
But then,
he has to play.
But then I'm a bit like, Rodgers is on the bench. So my gut is saying that Buendia is going to be off Watkins. That's probably where my gut feeling is at the minute.
Because he's clearly fit, but I do think when he came on against Leicester, there was a little bit of an air of this player's just really off the pace in terms of he just not match sharp. So he does need it, because in order, like you say, in order to be useful for the rest of the season, he's got to start playing some games. I mean, is there a chance? Could you have Ramsey and Rodgers in the team? I know they're very similar players, but could Rodgers sit in behind Watkins if he wants to play both of them and keep Buendia on the bench? I don't know. But I do agree. I think, like we said, Kamara and Tielemans have had probably the most strenuous season out of all of the players. So we've got to rotate to some extent. And I don't even think it's a fact of like using this as a throwaway game. I think it's just when you get a chance to rest some players, you've just got to do it. So I do think it's probably that left and that sort of 10 or in behind Watkins role that is perhaps the most subject to change. To be honest, don't mind starting with Buendia. I think he once was a pretty good player for Villa, but I don't want it to get to the point where we're sort of like 65 minutes in and he's absolutely blowing, and then we're behind, and then we've got to change the game by bringing someone else on. So do you start with your better player and then bring Buendia on? I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. I'd be tempted to just, maybe we throw him on and give him the chance, because otherwise, if he isn't going to start in this game and get some minutes, I don't think he's going to get any. And at which point he'll be handing in a transfer request, I imagine.
Yeah, I think he's got to play, so he's got to feature and sort of like contribute a little bit. I think just because it just feels like he comes on and we got into some really good opportunities against Leicester, like that shot that he had, when he's outside the edge of he should have hit the target really.
And that's match sharpness, really, just not having that final little thing on the end of his boot.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you could be quite critical of him and say, oh, you do need to do better there. But if you're not playing, like I think Bailey's done an interview, came out after the game saying he's had 3 injuries and he's hardly missed any football, so he's been playing through things. And I think again, sort of, you can be really critical of him, but if he has had injuries and it is sort of like stuttering him a little bit, and not allowing him to fully trust his body, so you can understand why his probably performances aren't quite to that highest level that we know. So we're just going to take a little look at how I feel the game will pan out from a Villa point of view. We still don't know whether Lopetegui has been relieved of his duties or whether there's going to be a sort of like a sort of not an interim, but like I don't know, like one of the coaches take over. So I think what we do probably know is that West Ham will play in that 4-3-3 shape. So the big threat from West Ham comes from out wide. Somerville really lively, Kudus lively as well. They've got that midfield 3 of Alvarez, who sits a little bit deeper. Paqueta can obviously pick up and move around through here. And then Souček, who's he gets himself about the pitch. He's a threat on the end of set pieces. He can grab a goal at sort of like any moment, really, because that's the play style that he's sort of got. They'll have width from both sides, up and down. But the big threat is Kudus, and Kudus arriving late into the box, sort of on that blind side of fullbacks. He's really good at, when there is an attack, he's always there. He's always present, trying to get on the end. A lot of his goals this season where, he's gone to the back post, he's headed one in, or he's got on the end of it, the game against Spurs, no one picked him up. So he's a real big threat for West Ham against Villa. And I think that the biggest threat, and one of the threats that I think we've sort of struggled with this season at times is quick, tricky, pacey wingers. I think that's probably been one of our real Achilles heel of being able to deal with those type of players that can just pick the ball up on transition, like we saw Jordan Ayew do. Just dribble, get to the ball on, put a ball in, and you've got players that are arriving late in the box. Fulkrug is, he's a finisher. You give him half a chance and he'll bury it. But I think basically how I feel like Villa will be able to win this game is that if we play our way and our style, then I think we will just have too much. I think for the way that if Lopetegui is in charge of this, I feel like we win this game. I feel like for West Ham it'll be the Fulham game that we had with Gerrard, where it's the final straw with all of that noise. And I think the other big thing for Villa in this game as well is that Fulkrug's pressing ability is quite slow. So you're going to be able to play through Fulkrug quite a lot. So if they do block out the two midfielders, I do actually feel like we'll be able to manipulate the ball quite well. So I think they are struggling, and I do expect Villa to be able to beat West Ham. I mean, a couple of the little areas that I think are the areas that you can really get past and hurt West Ham are in these little channel areas here, and especially in this area as well. I think because you've got Kudusu and Somerville who are out-and-out wingers, I think you can find space in behind those players. So I think if we try and have that intensity that I know we can, then I think we win the game. I mean, how are you feeling sort of like playing West Ham? Are you do you feel like they're a dangerous team to play, or do you think we can just win the game?
I think any team is a dangerous team to play when you're Aston Villa, because no result is ever guaranteed, and we know that by now. I'm glad we're at home, because I feel like we don't have much luck at the London Stadium. Is that what it's called? Don't know. Whatever, that horrible cereal bowl of a ground they play in. They've Point's been a bit of a bogey team, which we have a lot of those, so maybe that's not saying much, but they are really struggling. I think they concede a lot of goals, which we have that in common, but they are far worse. And I think they're missing Jared Bowen, which is obviously huge for them. He's an excellent talent, and I think he will probably leave the club. They're in a little bit of disarray. I think when you've touched on, kind of in a little bit of a limbo period with a manager, I think that plays on players' minds. You don't know how long your manager is going to be there for, who's going to come in. Are you going to be in favour with a new manager? There's a lot of pressure in that for a team of players, I think. So psychologically coming into this game, it'll be interesting to see kind of what mentality they come into it with. Are they going to be really aggressive, or are they kind of going to let us play our game at Villa Park? That'll be probably what we'll be able to tell within the first 5 or 10 minutes. But from that point on, I think we more than have enough to win this game comfortably, I would imagine, no matter what lineup we see, which hopefully be the one we've picked, which is a strong one, even with some players on the bench and out through injury and suspension. So Kudos is the one to watch, I think. Again, another really talented player. I think West Ham will struggle to keep hold of quite a few of their star players this summer, even this January, if they can't turn their results around. So they're not to be underestimated. They do have some good talent in there, but I think in general, we probably play in a way that hopefully they won't like, with a little bit more intensity. They're not like a really fast out the block team, I don't really think. Again, don't watch West Ham every week, so can't say I'm an expert, but I do think that we have a little bit more about us in terms of we know that we can be quite a high intensity team when we're at our best. So that will depend, obviously, but I'd like to think with that team that we've chosen, this should be a winnable game, and I think it would be nice for us to progress and see where we get to, because obviously the games are going to come thick and fast in the Premier League and the Champions League. We don't know how far we can get in the FA Cup beyond this round, so I think let's just try and win this one, keep everyone happy for a bit longer.
Love it. Right. I think we've predicted a good team. Hopefully, it's the team that can get the job done. It's been great having you on the channel, Hannah. So thanks for coming on. Everybody, make sure you're smashing the likes, subscribe to the channel, comment your thoughts. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.